Good morning. It's Wednesday, September 28th. And today, in my mind, there's no question that our political system is in trouble. And it's been in trouble since before the 2020 election. In fact, in 2019, there was a poll taken, and it found that the majority of people who had trust in our government was a low 17%. And more than 60% of the people at that time told the Gallup poll that they have little confidence in our government's ability to address domestic challenges. And as you can see what's happening in this country, around this country, you know that that's true. What we are seeing is something that was written into the Constitution. The Constitution was set up to protect minority rights. But what we have found now is that minority rights have overrun this country. No longer, in many cases, do the majority of people have a say in what's going on. And I state that categorically as true, because when you consider that we did away with Roe versus Wade, and the majority of people favored that law, so we are now faced with the fact that we must recognize that the minority in this country has control. And that control was granted to them in the Constitution by protecting minority rights. But at that particular time when they wrote the Constitution, the rights of the minority that they were considering were those people who owned property. Because in those days, it was only the property owners that could vote. The normal individuals weren't allowed to vote, people who didn't have property. Women weren't allowed to vote. So that was the minority that the framers of the Constitution meant to protect when they talked about minority rights. But what's happened in this country, because of the distribution of our population, we find that the minority of the population, over 40 million people, less than the majority of the people, live in 26 different states. And due to the fact that we have states' rights, those groups of minority, that's 40 million less than the majority side, is super powerful. And we can see that because of the way they are running this country into the ground. And while they are doing this, they are avoiding what was set up in the Constitution, basically, was the right to vote. So we have state legislatures that are making decisions that the majority of the people in their particular states are against. So it's a double whammy. We're living in a state of shock because this country is eroding. And it's eroding because we have allowed, through our Constitution, the rights of minority to take over the rights that our framers were trying to protect in some way, shape, or form. And so I ask you, how do you think that we're ever going to get out of this mess when we have continued to perpetrate the situation by allowing the gerrymander? And shouldn't it be that every real major decision should be put to a vote, not left up to the state legislatures? And those legislators are supposed to abide by what their majority of their population wants them to do. But somehow or other that has gotten lost in the shuffle. Somehow or other state legislatures and the representatives of the people there are not voting for what the people really want. Now I think when there's a major issue, then the state legislature should turn it over to the people to decide. They should not arbitrarily make the decision for them. Now, this may mean that some law gets delayed until the next election cycle, or you call a special election for a particular issue. But that's not what's happening. What's happening here is that state legislators are taking control of the federal government, in essence. And states with a minority population overall are running this country. So the majority is left out of the decision-making process. And now I recognize the fact that the framers of the Constitution were trying to protect the minority. But in 250 years, the minority has figured out how to take over. And that seems to be a violation of our three equal branches of government somehow. And the system of checks and balances is not really working very well if you look at it that way. And so I don't know how we could fix this problem. I don't really know, but I suggest that we really have to have more votes and less rule by the state representatives and less power for the states, perhaps. There are overriding issues that are being ruined because of our system of government, which is a republic and also a democracy. So I leave you with those thoughts this morning. Why don't we have more votes on major issues? Why are we allowing state legislators to rule the country? Why are we allowing the Supreme Court to get away with murder? That's it for this morning. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.